Hello and welcome to Confused Reviews, where Cartoon Drawing reviews movies. And I've been addicted to 80s coming-of-age movies as of late. Coupled with the fact that I just finished a behemoth Ferris Bueller analysis, and most people don't have anywhere to be.
Day 7,108 of the lockdown. I think it rips through your clothes when it takes you over. Nobody trusts anybody now.
However, that does mean I can finally get to a movie I've been waiting to cover for years. A hidden teen comedy gem that I feel doesn't get nearly enough attention, as it should. 1987's Adventures in Babysitting. And for many of you watching, this might be your first exposure to this movie. So first of all, get out and see it, because it's actually not available on D+ yet either. You'll have to get old school to see this one, or there's always the other way. In any case, most stories start at the beginning, so just like oh so many current properties are desperately trying to do, let's travel back to the 80s. Enter Chris Columbus. Whoops, obviously not this one. I'm about 65% sure this one never gave anyone smallpox blankets. Aside from any idiotic icons, this aspiring filmmaker had already written screenplays for Gremlins, Young Sherlock Holmes, and The Goonies by 1985. And with this Italian auteur itching to get into the director's chair, he rifled through dozens of scripts before landing on this one for his big-time directorial debut. Apparently, Steven Spielberg even attempted to executive produce it, because he was kind of a big deal at the time. Plus, it was way before Chris's more high-profile efforts. You may have heard of them. Adventures in Babysitting tells the story of Chris Parker, a teen who just can't seem to catch a break, and when she agrees to watch a few neighborhood kids, all hell breaks loose in a citywide Chicago shit show. And it's incredibly fun, no matter what some reviewers might say.
Well, this movie as a whole never quite caught hold for me. It kept drifting back and forth. Close call. A lot of good stuff in this movie, still a thumbs down.
This one can certainly be inducted alongside Ebert's other erratically awful takes. The lead role was a juggling act of everyone from Jodie Foster, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Michelle Pfeiffer, and even my girl Heather Langenkamp. But clearly Elizabeth Shue got the part. After all, she was a shoo-in. Oh, another interesting tidbit that I had zero knowledge of prior was that in other regions, mostly the UK and Spain, Adventures in Babysitting was known as A Night on the Town. Now, I'm completely clueless as to why, because Adventures in Babysitting is the greatest title this film could have had. It describes everything with 3 words. A Night on the Town sounds like a generic rom-com or something. Plus, they changed up this marvelous poster to varying degrees in other countries. Weird. So let's quit wasting time and jump right into one of the most underrated cult classics I've been watching on repeat since my childhood. Time to travel back to the Windy City and cut ourselves a piece of wedding cake masquerading as pizza. Pizza! This is Chris Columbus's A Series of Unfortunate Events, or something like that. So the film begins with our hyper-protagonist Chris, again played by Elizabeth Shue, who not only continues to kick ass at nearly 60 years old, but will always be one of my first celebrity crushes. She's partaking in a little early morning karaoke, as well as preparing for a date, and flies downstairs to...
I gotta cancel.
Never mind. Part-time Billy Madison bully and full-time merman enthusiast...
Oh, come on!
Bradley Whitford plays Mike. Long before this now silver fox was popping up in roles all over the place, he too was rocking the leather jacket and playing a generic 80s asshole boyfriend, with an equally dumb custom license plate that was actually Whitford's on his actual car. He acts more suspicious than someone with their hand glued into the cookie jar, and he ruthlessly cancels their anniversary dinner. But we'll get back to this domestic bliss later. The more important thing is that now Chris's night is wide open, and after a pity party with Brenda, played by Penelope Miller, she agrees to do Laurie Strode's least favorite job. Bouncing over to the Andersons' house,
Mr. Anderson.
We meet Sarah and Brad, played by Maya Bruton and Keith Coogan, with the latter going on to be in another babysitter-based banger.
Kenny?
Hey, get out!
And Sarah turns out to be one of the biggest shit-talkers of all time. She's absolutely hilarious, a Thor superfan, and a real fan favorite MVP of the movie. So for the sake of everyone, as we go, I'll include a sassy Sarah stabs counter, because she can get fucking brutal.
If you don't take it back, I'll tell Chris about all those love poems you write about her.
So yeah, Brad's got a crush on our hero, and can't really say I blame the guy. However, he might want to relax a little bit.
What about them?
They're so well placed.
Calm down, Casanova. And to bowl cut out the rest of our main cast, Daryl, played by Anthony Rapp, is introduced by giving the glass door a monumental raspberry. What? Since we've got to be hesitant to let the comic relief sidekick into the story, Brad runs around in his Mr. Rogers sweater and keeps him outside through some classic Scooby-Doo humor. Oh, and speaking of distraction, my Halloween signal is going off. They have a part of Halloween score playing on the TV, with some completely unrelated video. That's due to the fact that one of the producers is Deborah Hill, who was writer, producer, and overall badass who worked alongside Carpenter in the late 70s. Shockingly, this movie is even scarier than some of the later Halloween entries, but we've still got unfinished business there. Back to this movie, Chris gets a collect call from Brenda, who finally snapped and did the most angsty, immature nonsense imaginable, running away from home.
Bacon is good for me. She's acting like she's the queen, and we're the sorry people.
And now that Brenda dug her own grave at the train station, it's now somehow Chris's responsibility to save her, with friends like these. And while she pleads for her pal to save her April O'Neil jacket, this homeless guy that I'm surprised wasn't played by Buck Flower really needs to get back his assorted goods inside Bill and Ted's phone booth.
Get out of my house! Fuck you!
Along with a guy who keeps flashing her. And for once, I don't mean his dick.
Are you kidding me? You better run, you sick bastard!
That's all it takes to get these sweater fanatics en route to go save her, with a few really good points as to why they should tag along.
What if the house explodes?
The house is not gonna explode.
Thinking logically, there's never a 100% chance that won't happen. Anyways, as they're going for the car, we see the stray dog is still lurking.
Road trip?
Jesus.
So before the mix of Tommy Jarvis, Gosling, Reynolds can blackmail the babysitter,
You think?
she eventually lets him tag along too. That's why he's farthest down on the poster.
What am I supposed to do?
Get in the car and run him over.
Flying down into the shady depths of Chicago,
We're going downtown.
the journey is off to a generous 4 out of 10 start.
Oh no.
But before we deal with that, we brushed over a vital piece to the story. Daryl, the sleazeball he is, swiped his pops' Playboy, which coincidentally has a centerfold close to identical to Chris. Brad gives it a thumbs down. Chekhov's gun. If you establish a spicy Playboy in the first act, you have to pay it off several wonderful times throughout the story. That thing flies around with more urgency than the fucking Infinity Gauntlet. So after pulling off the expressway like some demented amusement park ride, they all laugh at Chris's misfortune, who doesn't really let up.
You don't have any money, you're a kid for Christ's sake.
Oh, you're right, SpongeBob. We are kids.
Even once Pruitt, played by John Ford Noonan, comes to assist like some tow-mater guardian angel.
My treat, okay? Okay?
But placing all jokes aside, because clearly we're nothing but professional here, don't let his blue-collar exterior and hook-handed sarcasm,
Handsome John Pruitt.
Gotcha, bitch.
because he really does just want to help out, and turns out to be as cool as the other side of Sub-Zero's pillow. And it's nice that they attempted something like that without feeling too ham-fisted. He even agrees to buy a tire, which costs a pretty penny. Once back on the road again, we get some backstory for John, and in a matter of seconds, the story flies off the rails as he goes off course to catch his cheating spouse. It's the most outrageous and random circumstance to happen in a big rig since Jack Burton drove one, and even creates a director trademark as consistent with Chris Columbus as Tarantino and Feet. Thankfully, Pruitt gets some well-deserved
Cheater's justice.
but not before the others hop in a car theft in progress. Talk about bad luck. Next thing you know, a plane engine is going to land on them downtown. Joe Gibb, played by Calvin Levels, agrees to look out for them, and then immediately takes them into an underground illegal chop shop network. This good deed doesn't go unpunished. Only thing, someone's gotta tell Brad to stop being so fucking handsy.
Thanks.
The villains consist of Graydon, portrayed by another Columbus alumni, Ron Canada, and Bleak, who sounds like he's gargling glass, and has a less than stellar reference game.
Take the Brady Bunch upstairs.
Played by John Chandler. The insane pace of chaos this movie goes through in just a few minutes is immaculate, and honestly distracts you from whether or not this technically constitutes a hostage situation. Verdict's still out on that. The gang decides to split, with an extreme game of tightrope, giving Wilford Brimley some rusty sweetener,
Diabetes.
as well as Daryl swiping a replacement magazine, which just so happens to have these morons' business dealings written on them. Do they write up contracts with the 2-ply on the 3rd floor?
I don't know, man, do they?
Also, I know that King Mouse technically distributed this movie, but they really missed an opportunity to spoof this movie on Victorious, like they did with the tone-deaf Breakfast Club parody.
Are you a vegan?
Are you a virgin?
The casting was practically rolled out on a silver platter, if you even know what I'm talking about. Even the remake got pretty close, but we'll get back to that eventually. So they get away and subsequently teleports from Chicago to a Vancouver dress-up substitute that looks so gross and dingy it would make Todd Phillips proud. And this mustache-twirling dehydrated skeleton actually threatens vehicular manslaughter if he doesn't get the book back. Good thing Albert Collins is there to conduct one of, if not the best scene in the film.
Nobody leave this place without singing the blues.
I'd also say that line is as badass of a fight ender than...
What are you gonna do about it?
Nobody leaves this place without singing the blues.
Nobody leave this place without singing the blues.
The sheer dedication in his eyes is what sells it. So after bringing the vibe down, the awkwardness is rebutted by the band starting an improvised set.
Babysitting blues. Baby, baby. Babysitting blues.
It's so good, even the bad guys wait until it's over. For how gritty this flick can be at times, it's got such an uplifting, fun sound.
Some guys out to get 'em, and the girl's probably dead. She ain't got a nickel.
And we should be in bed.
It's good stuff.
Groovy.
Actually, one more time, just because.
Nobody leave this place without singing the blues.
I like to imagine the bar erupted into a Roadhouse-style brawl after they got out.
You think?
Brad pours his heart out to Allie, who blows it off, and after seeing a woman of the night, they decide to hurry it up. But not before Bleak and Co. catch up so they can run into the subway. Parkour! And catch a train just in time. Too bad the only one that's happy for them is Joe. The other two need to lighten up.
I want you to tell me all about those kids.
I don't know anything, you know?
You know something.
No way, Paulo. You just wanna,
Our band of misfits are now on the fucking crazy train. Because after Daryl solidifies his catchphrase,
You think? You think? You think?
Comedy comes in threes.
out of nowhere, two rival Chicago gangs begin to trash talk like we're in a deleted scene from The Warriors.
Only people gonna be getting off this here train gonna be doing it in body bags. Yeah.
I'm being completely serious when I say this bit is utterly pointless to the story, yet manages to be the funniest few minutes that I would put in the running for like the 8th best scene in all of cinema.
Here comes Devereaux.
Then Chris, in a move that really conflicts with Jimmy Hoffa's safety tips,
So you charge with a gun, with a knife you run. Charge a guy, always charge a guy with a gun. With a knife you run away.
jumps in front of this potential bloodbath just to try and save everybody. Now that's a great protagonist, even if they don't see it that way.
Sit down, bitch. Bitch, sit down.
So Brad springs to action to prove that chivalry is alive and well, and that knives hurt. Now I know this is super tame by today's standards, but that simple reverse shot sound effect still causes me to make fists with my toes.
Fist with your toes.
To this day, regardless of how easily I can recreate it.
Scum sucker.
And as the freshest cherry atop this already perfect sundae of a scene, this movie super slams everything you thought you knew about movie ratings. Because, in case you weren't aware, the horribly flawed MPAA allows PG-13 rated films to have one fuck per movie before getting anchored down with an R. Adventures in Babysitting, on the other hand, cements itself as the greatest use of 2 fucks in a PG-13 movie, as it somehow got away with a great one-liner,
"Don't fuck with the lords of hell,"
and an equally impressive retort.
Fucking fuck. Fuck. Fuckers. Fucking fuck it.
When the fuck did we get ice cream?
Don't fuck with the babysitter.
So once off the terror train, they find a well-placed ER, and this hodgepodge of Gene Wilder, Borat, Sandler, and the dude stitches Brad up, and talks like he could really use a pick-me-up.
All better.
And while I have you here, Doc, did you hear that in 2016 they made a cheap, watered-down pile of sanitized crap that they had the gall to connect to this movie by calling it the same thing?
Oh dear.
And since I feel like I wouldn't be doing my part if I didn't give this a watch, let's crawl through the murky shit waters of this Disney Channel original movie in 60 seconds or less. Adventures in Baby Shitting, as I call it, wasn't actually the worst movie I've ever seen. Lola's aight. The coat sequence was cool, along with the chain swing. And I like that they didn't just directly go to the same places and tried new ideas, even if they weren't all great. Yo, quit wasting the fucking detergent!
Life isn't fair, kid.
However, the movie is way too fucking crowded. Why did it need to not only have a rival babysitter, but like 25 extra stagnant brats? Also, every scene goes on for like 30 seconds too long. I couldn't stand that they replaced the excellent singing scene for an awful rap battle. The wannabe wet bandit bad guys aren't nearly as good a nemesis as the original either. All in all, it had a few fun moments and setups, but ultimately falls flat and is way too wishy-washy to be enjoyed by anyone. Now that I can rid my conscience of that mess, back to the actual film. And through some freaky timing and deadpan delivery, the dim-witted doctor accidentally says Brad's dead.
Your friend is dead.
Dead?
Dead? Dead?
And ties up the joke nicely with a pratfall to make Farley honored. One quick smelling salt wake-up later, and Chris says something that sounds familiar.
I had the worst nightmare.
Seeing that it's been at least a minute since I talked about Back to the Future, time to do a little harmless speculating. Welcome to a brief confused conspiracy. Chris Parker is really Jennifer Parker. Originally played by Claudia Wells, the role of Marty McFly's right-hand gal Jennifer Parker was replaced by Elizabeth Shue for the sequel, because Wells stopped acting to deal with family obligations. That character is named Jennifer Parker, who shares an extremely close name with the lead in Adventures in Babysitting. What's even stranger is that they both not only faint in a comical fashion, both say this exact line, but Shue's recasting was for a movie that came out 2 years after this. Maybe it's the same person who was left by Marty and Doc to start a new life in some unseen journey. Also, Maya Bruton played his aunt in the first movie. So who knows what it means?
Whack.
Anywho, right as they're deciding what's next, Pruitt saves their ass again and helps them keep the story moving. He's really the unsung hero of the movie. Cheers.
Maybe we could sell Daryl. You think?
Diving into the frat house of Alpha Delta Date Rape, we see the band from Roadhouse. It's not really. And grocery store brand John Cusack to stop in for a last-minute love interest. At least the international markets cared about Dan, played by George Newbern, enough to put him on the poster in place of Sarah. I, on the other hand, am having a real hard time caring about this mulleted muff. And Brad continues to get left in the dust, even when Daryl manages to get some. Bummer. Chris's knight in shining scarf drops them off to Dawson's garage, who is revealed to be longtime vet of the show, Vincent D'Onofrio, who looks fucking ripped. It's insane to me that Kubrick transformed this chiseled man into the pudgy private pile that same year. The sweaty mechanic with hair good enough to find himself on the 80s hairspray Mount Rushmore is mistaken as Thor by Sarah. Yes, long before the Aussie Hemsworth took up the hammer, this was the Thor I knew. And it's quite a jarring comparison to see his status in pop culture today versus the still goofy perception comic book characters had if they weren't these three.
Thor's a homo.
Safe to say you wouldn't find lines like that in the MCU today. Also, not to keep getting too conspiratory this time, but this could be Thor. Remember when superheroes had boring, mundane alter egos?
I am Iron Man.
Yeah, before that was cool. Maybe he is a tow truck driver in his downtime. That or, like, demolition, maybe railroad building, because the hammer. And if D'Onofrio doesn't return as Thor in Sam Raimi's Multiverse of Madness, what's even the point? The crew gives him $45, with the guy being a total Karen over $5.
Then you don't have a car.
And Sarah's blissful childhood innocence is enough for Dawson to let them go. Unfortunately, the celebration is short-lived as they stroll past Chris's original plans for the evening. Turns out Mike was actually a piece of shit, just in case anyone didn't pick up on that. Stillwell doesn't plan on taking it lying down though, so she causes a huge scene with the boys not taking an ounce of his bullshit, with Brad and Daryl getting some good moments.
I won't sink to your level.
I will.
Maybe if Tony was the one who gotten into the fight and Dazed and Confused, he would have won. You think? The villains chase after Sarah, with Graydon getting his second right hook of the movie. And the whole cast congregating at the Andersons' party. Out of the whole city of Chicago, that's the last place you want to be. Aside from maybe outside of the building.
Hey!
Even the guy who's supposed to be getting these kids by any means necessary is baffled at this decision. I still don't know why she thought this was the right move. Brad, Chris, and Daryl do some more visual gags, and Bleak performs some of the most genuine rage I've ever seen.
What?
There's just something about the way he says it.
What?
They scoop up Sarah, leave Graydon to think out his life choices, and Joe fulfills his promise by letting them end the night murder-free. And he takes the Playboy back. All's well that ends well.
Wow. Nah, she don't even compare to you.
I wish Gibb was in the movie more. He's got such an effortless charm that I think he would have made a great addition to the team, maybe being one of the reason Bleak's after them. But this knockout works good too. They get Brenda's insufferable ass, hot foot at home, clean up in seconds, and play it off perfectly. While not as snappy as Ferris Bueller's Chase, this climax is still pretty intense at several points, and is a great way to end off the film. Well, not before Dan returns to score the girl. Cue freeze frame! And that was Adventures in Babysitting. And while certainly not the masterpiece I remember, this one definitely deserves a lot more recognition. For starters, the entire cast is great, with Sarah dropping several elite roasts, Daryl being an awesome sidekick, Brad playing the everyman with ease, and all the colorful players they meet throughout having time to shine. Elizabeth Shue is also phenomenal, and while a few of her delivered lines could have used another take, she carries this flick. And with all the current hoopla over strong female characters, it's a shame Chris Parker isn't ever mentioned alongside the usual suspects.
Don't fuck with the babysitter!
Because she more than deserves it. Another aspect I love is the soundtrack. It has an incredible sound, with every scene provided the best possible choice of tunes. I've listened to some of these songs unironically, so make of that as you will. Plus, the nighttime Chicago setting gives the film a unique look that is both a great companion piece to Ferris Bueller, while feeling entirely different from the bright, non-violent look at the city. And I dig that the movie isn't afraid to get ballsy with the script and situations.
I must be hallucinating. Does anybody else see a talking penis?
And while we're on the screenplay, it isn't flawless by any standards, but it definitely has some of the, how should I put it, most legendarily hilarious moments of 1980s coke-fueled screenwriting.
I'll make it very clear. You slip me the cash, and I'll slip you the wiener.
And even has great sight gags, too. Meanwhile, the pacing is one of the only major negatives I have, as even though it prides itself on taking detours left and right, some work really well and craft an unforgettable ride, and other bits tend to drag on way longer than they should and could have used a few trims here and there. The end of the second act has a major lull before picking back up again. Other than that though, this movie is a fun joyride that throws you around like a delightful case of whiplash, before ending it off with the best amount of cheesiness, crafting one of the most underrated gems of the coming-of-age subgenre. You'd be doing yourself a disservice not to check this one out, as it takes a simple premise and adds enough sugar, spice, and everything ridiculous into a movie you won't soon forget. I'm going to give Adventures in Babysitting because again, no idea why this one is almost entirely forgotten. This and Better Off Dead are two 80s movies that I love dearly and somehow want to believe deep in my soul are John Hughes ventures, yet aren't. Regardless, this movie kicks ass and is one of my favorites from the teenage wasteland. I'm Confused Reviews. Thanks for watching.